Hi guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to render polytopes with my new Rust n-dimensional wireframe renderer. I've been using it in my most recent videos. You might have noticed that the renders look a little nicer than usual, and that's because I'm using this new renderer that has like all these cool things like edge distance gradients and stuff like that, where closer parts of the edge will look bigger than further parts of the edge. Anyways, it is free and open source, and today I will be showing you how to use it, because who wants to read documentation, am I right? Alright, so you're going to go to the Releases tab, and you're going to click on the rustnd wireframe.exe, and if you're not on Windows, you'll have to just build the code like normal. And what we want to do is create a new folder, call it Decimal Renderer, or something like that. Drag this in, and now we're going to create an images folder for this to output its images to this folder, and then we're going to create a few text documents. First up is setup.txt, that contains things about what polytope you're loading. Then we also want rotations.txt, which you can just leave this one blank. It'll just have whatever rotation planes you want the animation to have. Then we're just going to do motion.txt, which we're going to just fill with 2 lines of 0, which is basically just going to say start at 0 and move 0 by the end of the animation. Alright, now for setup.txt, the first line is going to be a path to the polytope. That can be absolute or it can be relative. Alright, so I dragged in a new OFF, 2op hexelt gamma, and we're just going to type this in here. You don't have to do that with this specific polytope or anything like that. Any polytope will do. I'm just using it for an example. Then after that, you're going to want the resolution of the animation, which I'm just going to put at 512, and then the frame count, I'm going to put at 360. Then this is the minimum dimension, so I'm just going to put that at 3, or you can put it at 4 if you want. Basically what that means is that if the polytope is lower than that dimension, your rotation controls will be in the minimum dimension. So if you do 4, then you can rotate a 3D polytope in 4D. Now we're just going to write the facet expansion, so 0.0 is not expanding the facets at all, and then 1.0 is also not expanding the facets at all, but it'll be laggier. And then 0.5 is the facets are 50% smaller. I'm just going to do 0.0 to keep it simple. Now that we have our text files set up, we can run rustnd wireframe.exe, more info, run anyway. And now we have this lovely polytope. But what am I supposed to make of this mess of lines? Well, you hold down Control, and then you do the scroll wheel, and that changes the perspective level. Now I can pan around and it looks pretty sensible, but I don't like how close it is. I'll scroll without the Control key, and now it's a little smaller on my screen. So this is orthographic zooming, and then holding down Control gives me perspective zooming. So yeah, holding middle click or left click and then dragging around pans the thingy, and then if I hold down right click, I can roll the camera. So right now this looks pretty shitty, so what we can do is press R to increase the subdivisions of the edges, or F to decrease the subdivisions of the edges. We can use E and D to increase and decrease how far you can see into the dimensions after 3. Then W and S adjusts the far fading plane of when it goes to black. And then Q and A adjust the near fading plane of when it goes to full brightness. If you make these go behind each other, it gets all weird, which is not what you want. So don't do that. And yeah, with something like this, it looks pretty reasonable. You know, I can't see the back half, but I can see the front half. Finally, if you do, so normally it's like XZ, YZ. But if you hold down Control, then it's XW, YW, and you can get some 4D rotation in there. And then if you hold down Z, it's XV, YV, and then so on and so forth with holding down X, and then holding down C, except this is a 6-dimensional object, so I can't rotate with the C button. But yeah, it just keeps going down. C, V, B, N, M. The limit for the rotation controls is 10 dimensions, but yeah. So here's our beautiful polytope here. Now let's say I want to rotate it spinning on the XZ plane right now. Well, what I would do is go to rotations.text and then type in 0 for the x-axis, space 2 for the z-axis, and then 0 because I want it to be in screen space, not polytope space. Polytope space is relative to the OFF dimension axes. So if I were to type 1, that would be on the axes of the polytope OFF itself rather than of the scene. So you almost always want 0. Now, if I press enter, it will start rendering that. And there you go. There you can see it goes, it spins around, and once it does a full 360-degree rotation, it plays the Arena 4D wind sound effect. And if we go to the images folder here, you can see it's just chock full of images. And these images are in the wrong color space, but I don't really know what's up with that. But FFmpeg seems to work with them just fine, so it doesn't really matter. That's another thing, is that you need FFmpeg. Anyways, if we just open in terminal here, there's commands that you can copy paste from the repo, the readme. Yeah, right here it shows you commands for GIF and MP4. So I'm going to do frame rate 60 and compression 16, and I'm going to render this as 2op hexelt gamma.mp4. And now if I do this, just wait a bit, and now it's done. So if I go back here, you can see we have 2op hexelt gamma.mp4. And if I run this, you can see it's just a video with the things we specified. So yeah, the frame count is basically how many frames it takes to rotate 360 degrees on all the planes that you have specified in the rotations.text. So like, say now we also wanted to do a YW rotation. Well, then we do 130 for YW, and then, you know, screen space. So now if I do that, you can see it rotates YW as well. Lastly, I'm going to say that if you go to setup.text and you change this or change any of these things, just press 0 and it'll reload the polytope. So like, let's say I want to turn on fast expansion to 0.5, just press 0 and it'll reload it with the rotation preserved. So you can do really nice things with that because the rotation is preserved. Yeah, and then when you do facet expansion, you usually have to turn down the W fading a little bit. Now you can see all these facets are split apart, which looks pretty funky. Now let's say you wanted to get some motion involved. Well, you can do that too. So if you go to, okay, let's clear the rotations.txt file, which you don't have to press 0 after that, by the way. It only grabs the file contents after you press enter, so of rotations in motion. Okay, so now we're just going to say, so this is the starting position, so it's just going to be just 0. And then for the motion, we're going to, well, actually we want to start it at like -4 on the W-axis, and then we want it to move 8 units on the W-axis over the course of the animation. So now that we have that, if we press enter, we should see it fade in. And look at that. Took way too long though, so let's adjust this to -2.5 and 5. So once this is done rendering, it plays the sound, and we can go back here to run it again. I'm just going to call this slice. Alright, so now if we watch this, that's pretty cool. And this looks pretty low resolution, but you can put it in any resolution you want, even if it's higher than your monitors, like how I did 4K for that hexelt video. So there's no reason that you can't combine rotations and motions. So let's do 0 to 0. So now we have something like those Polytope wiki GIFs. And yeah, this tool is perfect for uploading stuff to the wiki. So I'll copy this command, let's put it here, and the frame rate I'm going to put as 60 FPS. Then this is probably going to be a really big file. Yeah, it's 13 megabytes. So you could do lots of stuff to make this file smaller. But yeah, this is a great tool for uploading stuff to the Polytope wiki, and I've used it a lot for that. Yeah, look at that. I think this looks really awesome. From there, you could also add in more rotation planes to get tons of stuff. There's one more thing that I forgot to mention. So before I close off this video, because you know all the basics now, there's one more thing I want to mention, which is that you can hold down Shift and then use the scroll wheel to change the thickness of the lines of the render. And these are kept constant as you zoom in and out. That basically covers everything. That's basically all you need to know in order to make animations and stuff like I do. Thanks for watching.